episode of Fan Talk. As you can see, I'm back in the studio, back in my normal space. It's good to be back. Last week, some scheduling conflicts arose, and essentially I just did it online, which actually worked out pretty well. Last episode, I talked a lot about bracketology, and I kind of shared my screen and kind of gave you a little crash course from my non-expert opinion and understanding. But yeah, we're back in the studio. Fan Talk. This is a podcast produced by me, Kyle Brenchley. This podcast is found on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. You just search Kyle Brenchley Fan Talk, and there it is. If you follow me on Instagram, every week this episode comes out on a Friday, and I post it on Instagram, on my Instagram stories. So the link to the Spotify and the link to the YouTube is always on there. So go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram. It's KBrench, or you can search Kyle Brenchley. It'll come up regardless. But let's jump into this week's episode. This week's episode is going to be a little bit different. To those who are new, this Fan Talk podcast is me sitting down and talking about what I've seen as a fan on my couch in sports. The games I've watched, the news that has happened. And I've talked a lot about football. I've talked a lot about basketball, college and professional. I've had both my brother come on and my good friend Kai. And I'm always looking for more guests as well to share kind of our opinions. Last week I talked a lot about the NCAA tournament that's coming up. We're getting close to March. February is a short month. We're only, 4 days away from March. So that's really exciting. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But before I jump in and kind of do my usual spill and analysis of things, I came across this video that I thought was very impactful. I really appreciated it. And I kind of want to share the message with you guys and invite you guys to go watch this. This one really struck home for me because I want to be a sportscaster. I want to go into sports broadcasting. I want to be play-by-play, color commentator. I want to cover sports. That's what I want to do. And this is a video on TikTok. It's from the Joel Klatt podcast. Joel Klatt is an analyst for Fox Sports. He does college and professional. And he usually works with the legend Gus Johnson. We all love Gus Johnson. We've all heard his calls and his excitement. I love listening to Gus Johnson, one of the most recognizable voices in sports right now. He brought Gus Johnson onto a show, Joel Klatt. And they were talking about the industry of broadcasting. They were talking about, as a broadcaster, who are you directing your broadcast to? Who are you calling the game for? Klatt was saying, do you call the game for the executives at CBS, at Fox, at ESPN, or for the other analysts in the industry, or for the news coverage? Like, are you catering your call for them? Or are you catering your call for the fan who sits at home on the couch and is watching the game? And Gus Johnson kind of gives us insight onto how he does that. He does the latter. He keeps the man or the woman or the kid who's at home watching the game in mind. That's who he's broadcasting the game for, not for executives, not for the Twitter analysts, not for the other sports analysts, but for the man, woman, child who's sitting at home watching the game. And he shares this story, some of his fondest memories, him as a kid, sitting down with his dad, with his siblings, with his mom, and watching Michigan sports. He grew up in Michigan, so watching, Michigan football, the Detroit Pistons, the Tigers, the Red Wings, etc. And those were some of his fondest memories, coming together as a family and watching these sports. And so whenever he does a game, whenever he broadcasts, and he does a lot. He does a lot of the big-time stuff for Fox, both professional and college, basketball and football. He keeps that memory of him as a child with his dad and his mom and his siblings watching these games in mind. And that's who he broadcasts to. That's who he directs his message to. And that's why he's so good. That's why he's so exciting. Because he's not trying to impress his bosses or his coworkers or his fellow analysts. He's not trying to impress really himself either, prove that he's great. He's trying to provide the greatest experience the most inclusive experience, the most exciting experience for people like me, people like you. And so that's why I've always really liked Gus Johnson, and I really like this video. And I'm going to share this video. I'm going to include the link down in the description of this episode. I think I'll also post the video on my Instagram story and on my Twitter, pretty much everywhere, to kind of share this video with y'all, because I really think it's a powerful message and really inspires me as someone who wants to be great, like Gus Johnson or Joel Klatt, who wants to be these guys one day. Really a good message for me to kind of grasp and to apply. But also I think it's a good message for any industry, any field, any craft. Keep in mind the people you're serving. And whatever you do, do it for them. Not to impress somebody else, not to prove that you're great, not to, tell your bosses that I can do this, I can do that. Keep that in mind. Serve others, think about others. I just wanted to share that. I thought it really hit me hard, and really encourage you guys to go check that out. And I'm excited for March Madness to start. I'm excited for Gus Johnson to call these tournament weeks. Obviously, we have the tournament weeks before the big tournament. So each conference has a postseason tournament, and they're all ranked one from, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, how many teams are in the conference. And they play, and from there's crowned a champion of the conference in the regular season. Well, in the tournament, excuse me. Sorry, I mixed that up. Tournament champion. Sometimes there's regular season champions, but then there's also room for tournament champions. And if you win your tournament, then you get an automatic bid into the big dance, So if you win your little dance, you go to the big dance. You get invited to the big dance. But also, as I mentioned last week, there's a lot of teams who get in, who don't win their tournament, but get in based on their resume, based on their wins, based on the quality of their wins, etc. Strength of schedule. So I'm looking here on the NCAA tournament bracketology website. It's actually through ESPN, but there's a little tab. Joe Lenardi does this, as I mentioned before. Bracket Watch. I want to share kind of my thoughts on some of the different categories that have been put out. So he here has a projected 68-team bracket with all the teams filled in. And he has a section called On the Bubble. Currently on the bubble, there's 4 categories. There's the last 4 byes, which are essentially the last 4 teams that get into the tournament. There's the last 4 in, which are the last 4 teams that get into the tournament, but they have to win a game to get in, essentially. It's kind of like the first round of the tournament. It's unofficial. They usually have 16 and 11 seeds take these spots, and so you have to win to even get in. But you are invited technically into the tournament, but you have to win to actually get in to the bracket. First 4 out are obviously the first 4 teams that don't make it. They're the teams that could potentially slide in. And then the next 4 out are just that. So currently, and you can check this, he updates this really often, a lot. It was just updated this morning as of Friday, February 24th. The last 4 teams in, you got Pittsburgh, Nevada, Memphis, and West Virginia. These are the last 4 byes. These are teams that are projected to get into the tournament without having to play that extra game to get in. These teams, the last 4 in, Oklahoma State, USC, Wisconsin, Mississippi State, they are currently pinned up against each other to play to get into the tournament. So if the bracket started today, according to Joe Lenardi, he would say Oklahoma State would play USC and Wisconsin would play Mississippi State in an 11-11 matchup just to get into the tournament. Just to get in. If they lose, you go home. You win, you get in. So while this is, projected, there's a lot of merit that goes into it, a lot of thought. And what particularly sticks out to me I am currently attending Utah State University here in Logan, Utah. And Utah State is one of those first four out. And so, I've talked about this last week for a variety of reasons. I broke it down. I gave an example. So go check out that video for sure on kind of how it works, kind of what the mindset of those who are picking these teams, what their mindset is, and kind of what they're thinking. Currently, Utah State, first four out. Really, to get in, as I mentioned before, they need to win their next two games and then also probably go to the championship game in the Mountain West tournament or have a quality win. It's an uphill battle right now, but it's still possible. So, if you're not a big college basketball fan, I recommend you start watching these last couple of weeks of the season. Utah State has 2 games left. A lot of teams have about 2 or 3 games left. And then the tournament starts. A lot of tournaments start this first week of March. So not next week, but the week after. Some are at the beginning of that week. Some are later in that week. But they're exciting. And they're usually played, at a neutral site. Anything can happen. It's like the appetizer to the main course. It's like the appetizer to the big dance, as I've mentioned before. And you can find all this information here on ESPN. This is just kind of my main news source, but you can also CBS Sports, Fox Sports, whatever, Yahoo Sports, whatever your fancy is. Another particularly interesting thing is I have the opportunity to go down to Las Vegas to cover the Mountain West tournament for Utah State. Mountain West tournament is going to be held in the Thomas and Mack Center there in Las Vegas. That's where UNLV plays. So I'll be covering women's and men's. Really exciting opportunity. Really excited for that. I love, if you ever get the chance, I recommend going to a tournament, a conference tournament. And yeah, you can go support your team and just go to their games, but I recommend going to other games too that aren't your team in the tournament. Really fun to watch. I know a lot of tournaments, there's like a way to purchase, like a 3-day pass or a multi-game pass or something like that gets you into multiple games other than just one singular game. And that'd be really fun to do. So I recommend doing that. I'll be down in Las Vegas. It'll be super fun. It's going to be a good time, and I'm super excited for that. We'll see how it goes. It's also a fun time of year because it's bracket time to create your brackets, make your projections, and decide, who's going to be the champion. Will Kansas repeat? Will there be a new champion? Will North Carolina even get in? All these questions, and we're just waiting for the answer. So that'll be super fun. That'll be super exciting. I'm excited to watch that, and it'll be really great. So a couple big games coming up this weekend. So if you have time, flip on your channel, check it out, and see what's going on in college basketball. Kind of shifting gears, another thing I want to talk about is something that did happen on the court. It was actually a record that was broken, a season high, also a record for the school, but perhaps is in a little bit of controversy as if it should have ever happened based off what happened off the court. I'll explain. So, if you haven't heard, there has been an incident with the University of Alabama where a basketball player named Brandon Miller has appeared to have a connection with a shooting that happened in January on campus. A 23-year-old woman was shot, fatally shot, and Brandon Miller was said to believe to have perhaps provided the gun for the shooting. He didn't fire the weapon. He wasn't the one who, pulled the trigger or planned this out. But there are possible connections that he was involved with this unfortunate murder. And so Brandon Miller, he's only a freshman, really good player. While he has not been charged with a crime, there's this chance that he could still be involved, but they don't have enough evidence to charge him as of right now. And so the University of Alabama decided that they would continue to let him play. The athletic department, the coach, the university got together and they said, bearing all circumstances, Brandon Miller will continue to play basketball for the University of Alabama until further evidence comes or until proven otherwise. And so Brandon Miller, a month after the incident, goes on to score a career-high 41 points in an overtime win over South Carolina, which is the most points by a freshman in a Division I game this season and the most by an Alabama freshman in program history. Wow, you just made history. Highest points this season and most by an Alabama freshman in program history. Incredible. Awesome player, did some amazing things on the court. But the controversy is, should he have even been allowed to step on the court after possibly being involved with a capital crime, a serious crime in murder? I'm not here to say one way or another, but I just thought I'd share this story if you haven't heard, and it's an ongoing story, and so keep that in mind moving forward. Alabama currently the number 2 seed in the country. Brandon Miller can really help them out. If something happens where he can no longer play for them, then Alabama might be in trouble. Alabama, really pushing to see if they can win the national championship in basketball, a program that historically has been amazing at football and has been getting a lot better over the years at basketball. So that's an interesting thing to follow. So keep that in mind. These players have lives off the court. It's more than just a game. Life is real. These players are real. I saw a college basketball player at Costco the other day in the food court. These are real people. He was getting a slice of pizza. Guy eats pizza. Who knew? So these players are real. And athletes are real. Coaches are real. Referees are real. And while we are entertained when we watch these sporting events or when we go to these sporting events and we invest so much emotion, so much passion into our pride, our school pride, or our team pride, just remember, these guys are real. These girls are real. And they have real lives, real struggles, just like you and me. And, that's why I appreciate sports so much. It's something I can relate to. It's a part of me. It's more than just an outlet. It's really is a part of me. And going back to that Gus Johnson video, he's broadcasting that for me because he understands that all those players on the field, all those players on the court, all those players on the ice, they're people just like you and me. They have humanity. And sports is a way to connect us all together, to bring us together in a world that is forever going to be divided and is ever so more divided. Sports can bring us together. So I just wanted to share that. This episode was a little different than in the past. I'm excited for college basketball moving forward. March is almost here. It's crazy to think that we're almost done with 2 months of 2023. Hopefully you guys still have New Year's resolutions that haven't been broken yet. I know February is kind of that month where everything, kind of goes under. But keep going. Keep trying. 2023 is going to be a great year. And I really appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. Again, it's found on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Search Kyle Brenchley Fan Talk. And I'll be posting episodes every week. So tune in next Friday for another awesome episode of Fan Talk. Have a great weekend, guys. Stay safe out there. And again, thank you. And go watch some basketball.